What is going on, everybody? Wow, what a draft. All of the takes and opinions and preparation leading up to this moment to see the chaos unfold. Just too much fun. I want to thank all of you that joined me for my live stream here on YouTube. It was just incredible to see all you guys out there for that live stream. A quick announcement, tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3, we're going to be on Twitch doing a similar thing. Hanging out with you guys, reacting to the picks as they come in. Going to be a little more casual, going to be working on that Madden rookie roster for Madden 19 while I talk to you guys on Twitch. So head over to twitch.tv/ThatFranchiseGuy and join me for that. So much to react to. We're going to go through pick by pick. And as always with these videos, the draft grades, people are going to say, this is so dumb. What's the point in saying who won and lost the draft? We don't know about these players. Well, what's the fun in that? Those are going to be your results over process type of thinkers. This video is all about process over results. And yes, there will be bad grades that I give to teams that end up proving me wrong. Baker Mayfield last year I was completely wrong about. But there was a lot of grades as well that was very critical of the process. Tampa Bay taking a nose tackle, Vita Vea. Criticized the Seahawks for Rashad Penny. Criticized the Giants for going a running back over Sam Darnold. All of those things played out and are still things we're talking about today. So I do strongly disagree with the people that say doing draft grades is pointless, because I do think it's incredibly interesting to look at the process that these general managers have and to compare and contrast who's thinking correctly and who's thinking incorrectly. So let's kick this thing off. Arizona grabbing Kyler Murray first overall, and I can proudly say this is probably the best take in the history of this YouTube channel. Back in January, we went against the grain, said that Kyler Murray would be my pick first overall, move on from the franchise quarterback, that Kyler Murray, with that mobility, is going to be able to create offense where Josh Rosen couldn't. We've seen young quarterbacks with that mobility, Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, be able to continue to develop their game despite a good surrounding situation. A system quarterback like Josh Rosen's going to struggle in that environment. So, very proud to say that we predicted this on this channel, maybe before anyone else, certainly before I saw it from anyone. But that's in the past now. We're going to give Arizona an A for this grade. The only reason it's not an A+ is because you are losing out on some value. And value is the number one thing we're really looking at here. And the reason I say that is you traded picks to go up and get Josh Rosen, and they were not able to get a first-round back for Josh Rosen, which I've said that they should have been able to. You take the good with the bad. I called Kyler Murray, but I also said that Josh Rosen was going to fetch a first. Was wrong about that one. So you're a little disappointed there, but you have your quarterback moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept Josh Rosen and waited for that Ryan Tannehill injury, that Teddy Bridgewater injury, that preseason quarterback injury, even week 1, week 2, that Jimmy Garoppolo injury. We get one every year. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona just waited, knowing that if an injury happens, you can get that first for Josh Rosen. So let's move on. At number 2, not much to say here. Nick Bosa to the 49ers, absolute no-brainer. You get a number 1 edge rusher. That D-line setting up, I think, to be one of the most underrated fronts in the league. Really going to help develop Solomon Thomas now moving inside full-time, where he was much better in the back end of last season because they had been using him as an edge guy. Did not work out. He's going to move inside next to DeForest Buckner with Bosa and now D Ford. Look out for the 49ers. Already a dominant offensive line, getting in my opinion, a top 10 quarterback back and one of the best offensive play callers in the league. I haven't checked what their Super Bowl odds are, but if you listen to me when I said the 49ers at 45-1 to win the Super Bowl about 3 months ago, I think you're very happy with that pick. This reminds me a lot of when I said the Eagles were going to win the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Pick number 3, the New York Jets. We had a long conversation on the live stream about if Ed Oliver or Quinnen Williams was the right pick. They went with the safer option, and I cannot blame them. You now have a true identity. Quinnen Williams, a potentially elite interior defender, and the Williams brothers up front are really, I think, going to establish an identity for that defense, who has some good defenders on the back end. Potential to maybe get another corner here with some guys available. I know they don't have a second-round pick, but maybe with that third pick, that third-round pick, one of these corners can fall. But I like what they got going. Didn't quite get an A+ vibe for me. I just don't get too excited about interior defenders. And I'm not entirely sold Quinnen Williams is going to be Fletcher Cox or Aaron Donald, that elite 100 pressure a year type of interior guy. I'm pretty convinced he's going to be at least Gerald McCoy, who's a fantastic player. Can certainly be worth this third pick. just not 100% sure he's going to get to that level. Then the 4th pick, this was the first surprise here. Clelin Ferrell comes off to the Oakland Raiders. Absolute John Gruden pick. The Raiders draft, it's going to be a theme throughout this video, but really disappointing haul for them in terms of value. Definitely the approach here was just to get guys that Gruden is going to have fun coaching, that are going to start right away and, you know, have good careers here for the Raiders, to kind of identify that culture there in Oakland. But they did a really bad job identifying value. You could have probably moved down and get Ferrell, and if you didn't get him, you know, in terms of value, it's not the end of the world. Maybe the trade offers just weren't there, but they did say they were going to surprise a lot of people with that 4th pick, and they did not lie about that. This was a surprise. Now, the reason this isn't an F, now value-wise, yeah, it's an F, but, you know, Ferrell's a good player, and they needed an edge rusher, and he's going to be an impact starter for that team. That's what you like about him, is he's polished coming out. And I will say, I've been very critical on this channel that Josh Allen is not an impact edge rusher. He has the upside to be an elite guy, but he has a lot of growing to do. And the Raiders seem to agree with me on that. Now, I still would have taken Allen just because it's the top 5 pick and you have to swing for the fences, and this is not a swing for the fences pick, and that's why I don't like it. But I will defend some aspects of the fact that they felt Ferrell was the best impact edge rusher. That was their biggest need, and they went out and got it. Then at 5, Tampa Bay going with Devin White. Really nice player, perfect modern defender. I think linebacker is an undervalued position in the league right now, especially fast guys like this that can get sideline to sideline and defend these modern West Coast annoying offenses that are neutralizing pass rush and putting a lot of pressure on these linebackers to get to the ball, shed blocks, and make tackles. So that's a great pick there in Devin White. We give it a B-. My criticism here is the overall kind of strategy here, right? You got to rewind, because they signed 2 nose tackles in Mitch Unrein, Bo Allen. They drafted another nose tackle at 12 last year. So those 2 signings of 2 guys that did not make an impact made a dent in their cap space. So they have to let their good linebacker, Quan Alexander, go, who went and got, like, what, $60 million from the 49ers? So you now have this gaping hole at linebacker. Levante David's getting older, so you have to use a top 5 pick on another linebacker and pass on a potentially elite pass rusher in Josh Allen, or a top corner, which we later found out these corners are falling anyway. But again, process over results. I think there's some lost value in how you handled that situation. I would rather have just re-signed Quan Alexander and used this top 5 pick on another starting position, because right now you're basically just filling that void that you were forced to open up after poor team management. So that's where we're criticizing this pick. Nothing wrong with Devin White, though. He's definitely going to improve that defense and a fantastic player. So then number 6, oh man, where do we begin? They did it. They took Daniel Jones. We didn't know what was smoke screens, what was real. The Redskins and the Giants supposedly competing. I will just say the Redskins, props to them, because they just outsmarted the Giants, their division rival, so bad. They knew if they scared the Giants and said that we're thinking about Daniel Jones at 15, that they would take Jones at number 6. And by doing that, they knew that there was a pretty solid chance that their guy, Dwayne Haskins, was going to fall at 15. So the Giants completely screwed this thing up. And, you know, Dave Gettleman has been evaluating talent for a long time, longer than me, but I think it's reached a point where it's officially become a problem. He is drafting as if his team was playing in 1980, and it started when they took a running back over Sam Darnold last year. And it's only continued since he's traded away Odell Beckham and really only tried to run the ball and play better defense with the rest of his moves that he's made. And now he comes out and drafts the 4-year starter or 3-year starter, whatever, the white dude with the prototypical size that was coached well from Duke, like, over the 1-year black guy from Ohio State whose tape is clearly better than Daniel Jones. Like, I get the direction you're trying to take in New York, and the only reason this isn't an F is because at least you're acknowledging it's time to try and move on from Eli Manning. I completely disagree with the player that you're trying to do it. And to the Giants fans that are disheartened about this move, I'm sorry. I've been there. As a Packers fan, the last 5 years, my team just butchered the draft year after year with an old thinker in Ted Thompson. It's rough to have a team that does not, update their process and think modern, and the Giants are really struggling with that right now. Now, Jones could work out. I was wrong about Baker Mayfield last year, But to me, this is kind of Mitch Trubisky, Blake Bortles, you know, even like Christian Ponder, Ryan Tannehill all over again. He doesn't have the physical traits to be a high-quality starter in the NFL. I do not see the arm talent, and I certainly don't see the downfield accuracy. So we're giving this one a D-. The fact, too, that they were afraid of not getting him at 17 and passed on, you know, Josh Allen or Jonah Williams, who would really be impact stars on this team, it's a really big problem. Really not a fan of this pick. And we got more problems to come here with their picks. But let's keep moving. So the number 7, this was a really interesting pick. I think the Jags probably had a top 3 grade on Josh Allen. They saw the upside. They know that they have a culture there to develop elite pass rushers like this, a la Yannick Ngakoue. Knowing that Allen has some developmental aspects as a prospect, but has those elite tools, has that elite get-off. He doesn't even really have to start here. He's going to be a third down rusher as they push Calais Campbell inside on third down. That pass rush has a potential to be just back to, frankly, even better than it was a couple of years ago when they had the best defense in the NFL. So I think they just saw too much value here, and I'm not going to criticize them of that. But one note here, why it's a C+, is I've been very critical of the Jags' kind of assessment of the quarterback situation here. I was not huge on Nick Foles. I get that they're trying to win now, and this helps that defense be better. But with Dwayne Haskins falling here to 7, this is a really good roster. I don't see them having a top 5 pick in the next 3 or 4 years. You could have brought Dwayne Haskins in here, had him compete with Nick Foles, and really made that quarterback room something of a strength. And they've really kind of butchered this quarterback situation. Was very critical of how they managed the Blake Bortles with their extension and even drafting him. Did not like the Nick Foles signing, Blaine Gabbert. I think this would have been an opportunity to make a good move and get a potential franchise quarterback in Dwayne Haskins that they missed out on. And if Josh Allen doesn't become that elite player, they could look back on this as a mistake. Detroit at number 8. Not a whole lot to say about this pick. TJ Hawkinson was the 5th player on my board. I don't value tight end as a top 10 position most of the time, but he is as close to Gronk as we've seen come out. Detroit was interested in trading for Gronk, if you remember. I think Matthew Stafford would love a target like this. So this is something they've been really trying to find, probably going back to when Eric Ebron was a bust for them. So they were really chomping at the bit to get TJ Hawkinson. Really good player. I gave it a B. I don't love the value of a tight end in the top 10. It historically has not worked out for anyone. But Hawkinson as a fantastic player very well could work out. And Detroit needed an impact offensive player. Hawkinson's also going to help them run the ball better, which is something they're trying to get back to. So really solid pick. So then number 9, the Buffalo Bills, landing Ed Oliver after some pretty boneheaded mistakes, in my opinion, with Daniel Jones and Clelin Ferrell. Oliver should not have fallen this far, but we knew that there was a chance that with some of the old school thinking, these undersized D tackles do tend to fall, just like Aaron Donald did. And as Ed Oliver walked up to the stage as a defensive tackle who looks like a linebacker in a suit with that, you know, nice looking beard, looked just like Aaron Donald. I've always been an Ed Oliver guy. He was one of 3 blue chip players in this class for me, and the 3rd player on my board. So for Buffalo to fill a need here and get an elite player at number 9, that defense next year, already an underrated defense. That pass rush will be improved. Awesome pick here for Buffalo. I think in 2-3 years, the Giants are going to look back here looking for a new quarterback, because Daniel Jones, I have a really hard time seeing working out, and saying, wow, why did we pass on Ed Oliver, who's playing in New York, getting 10 sacks a year, and is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I think they're really going to regret this one. So then number 10, Pittsburgh moved up to grab Devin Bush, a great player. Now I keep saying Blake Cashman is my guy. I've got a higher grade on Blake Cashman due to that length and bigger size, ability to kind of, you know, shrug off tackles, take on blockers a little better. I actually like Blake Cashman a little more than Devin Bush. Now I do think they're both top 20 players. This fills a huge need for Pittsburgh. That defense has fallen off a cliff since the Ryan Shazier injury, which, by the way, for the Ryan Shazier is coming back truthers out there, I think this officially nails that coffin right there. But they give up a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick next year. It's a lot to give up for a guy that I would have been willing to wait and see if he got to me at 20. I know they probably felt pretty confident that he wouldn't have, but based off my evaluations, not worth the assets they gave up to go get Bush. So from a value perspective, I don't love it, but from a need and a fit and just, you know, they needed a guy like this in the middle of that defense, a leader. He's going to look really good in a Steelers jersey. And, you know, if he turns into an all-pro linebacker, which he definitely has the potential to do, you're not going to look back on this and say it was a bad pick. You're going to say it was a great pick. So not overly critical, just didn't love the value. Then Cincinnati at 11. I think this is the best pick in the first round. Jonah Williams, surefire, you know, Pro Bowl caliber tackle, amazing technique, better technique than pretty much 98% of the linemen in the NFL already. And Cincinnati has been so hurting at offensive line. To get this player, it's just an absolute steal. And I've already called Cincinnati a bit of a sleeper team next year. Adding Jonah Williams definitely helps that. That offense can be pretty underrated next year with a better offensive line. So we're going to try and pick up the pace a little bit here. Don't want this to get too long. But Green Bay at number 12. I've been a Rashawn Gary truther. Number 8 player on my board. So Green Bay definitely gets some value here. An interesting front now is they're basically going all power and speed. They don't really have a finesse rusher on their roster. The B- here is mainly just because I don't see him as a huge scheme fit. I thought Gary was a 4-3 end. Green Bay, kind of an aggressive attacking 3-4 scheme. But also his skill set is a little redundant with the two guys that they just paid, the Smith brothers in free agency. So I think they just saw the value is too good to pass up. I don't necessarily disagree, but they're not really getting that impact starter that you know you may have hoped Green Bay was going to get here at number 12. But that 5th piece for that pass rush could be a difference maker for that defense. Then Miami at 13. Christian Wilkins, a D+, a good player. I've kind of had this take, and it's not really changing here. I said I like Christian Wilkins in the 2nd round. I think he's a starting defensive tackle, great run defender. He's going to have a little bit of ability to get after the quarterback, but I don't think he's an elite pass rusher or ever will be. My comparison is Dalvin Tomlinson. And I loved the idea of getting Jeffrey Simmons for Miami, who's going to sit, help you lose games next year. They're clearly trying to, you know, kind of tank, and then come in and be a potential top 5 elite Fletcher Cox type of talent. You're not really getting that in Christian Wilkins, but you're getting a smart player, a guy for Brian Flores to kind of slowly build that defense around. I get it. Not going to rip it because you do get a starter and a pretty safe player. I just would have much preferred to go Jeffrey Simmons. Then Atlanta, starting to go with the offensive line. Do you think the Atlanta Falcons have a lot of confidence in Matt Ryan to carry that offense? Not a good day for the Matt Ryan is not a system quarterback crew. As they take 2 offensive linemen, all they do every year is help Matt Ryan in the 1st round. But regardless, a good move. I agree with that sentiment from Atlanta. You do have to protect Matt Ryan because if that pass rush breaks down, so will his play. I don't trust him when he has to create offense. I like it when you're creating offense for him and he can execute that system. Lindstrom, a super athletic guard, going to be excellent for the outside zone scheme that team has had a lot of success with in the past. Gets a B here because I did have other guards and interior guys ranked ahead of him. That's just my own evaluation. They clearly like him. Not going to fault him for it. Now, Washington, we already talked about how they just robbed the Giants. Like, absolutely played them. Said, oh, we're interested in Daniel Jones, and then ended up with Dwayne Haskins at 15. I've had Washington as a sleeper team for the last 3 months, but the big problem was, like, who's going to play quarterback for them? Well, now we know. It's Dwayne Haskins, a perfect fit for that team. Now has a chip on his shoulder after falling, and the team that passed on him in their division. I love the blue-collar mentality of this Washington Redskins team, and Haskins is going to be at the front of it now. Absolutely love the Redskins. I think a sleeper in the NFC East next year, going to be very competitive. If they're a 10-11 win team next year and Dwayne Haskins is Rookie of the Year, not going to surprise me. So then we got Brian Burns just kind of falling into Carolina's lap. I think you might have preferred to get more of an impact guy. Clelin Ferrell off the board, though. But Brian Burns has as high upside as anyone else. They've really lacked that elite edge rusher. So if he can quickly develop, he has the upside to be the best pass rusher in that building since Julius Peppers left the first time. I think a lot of Panthers fans are happy with this because his potential is just way too good. And it also sounds like they're going to mix in some multiple schemes next year. I love Brian Burns' ability to kind of drop into coverage and mix up some looks. At number 17, the New York Giants grabbing Dexter Lawrence. Ugh. Just awful, man. This is the old school thinking again. Same thing with the Bucks taking Vita Vea last year. Like, I like Dexter Lawrence, really good nose tackle. But you had elite corners. You had your pick of any defensive back in this class. You could have grabbed Andre Dillard to protect your new quarterback and establish one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. Hell, you could have grabbed an edge prospect like Montez Sweat, and I would have liked it better. But you take a nose tackle into your defensive line's already a strength of your team, Dave. Look around the league. Like, what are you doing? Sign Danny Shelton if you need a nose tackle. The value of this pick is not there. He could turn out to be a really good tackle. The biggest problem I have here is you just gave up Snacks Harrison, the best bloody nose tackle in the NFL at stopping the run for a 5th round pick. I get that salary cap is a thing. Okay, cut Eli Manning if you need some cap space. The management of this team blows my mind. I learned after ripping the Browns for drafting Baker Mayfield that you can be wrong about a player, and I'm trying to come around on that. But the process with the Giants here is absurd. And if the Giants don't somehow, turn into a badass team and win 11 games in a playoff game this year, I don't see how you don't move on from Dave Gettleman. He's drafting his team as if this was 1985 and teams are going to run 2 tight end I formations all game. It's 2019, dude. Wake up. All right, let's move on. The Minnesota Vikings getting Garrett Bradbury, star center. Pat Elflein really struggled at center. Bradbury, a total stud. Minnesota needed to go interior offensive line, and they did. Great pick. Should help get that offense back on track a little bit. Minnesota not far away from getting back to being that NFC contender. And then the Titans at 19, grabbing Jeffrey Simmons. I loved this pick. I don't know why I hadn't thought about this. A lot of reports, this one turned out to be true. You never know what you can trust, but Jeffrey Simmons was kind of their guy all along. But I've been kind of saying that the Titans need to find a star because they have so much depth. And the beautiful thing here is they can afford to miss here because they do have so much depth. But what they need is another star, whether it's on offense or defense. And Jeffrey Simmons could be a top 5 player in this class, and hell, he might even play next year. He has the upside of a Fletcher Cox as a dominant interior defender. Just has to come back healthy. I do want to say shame on ESPN. This guy has this great moment. He's torn his ACL. He's devastated. He doesn't know if he's going in the first round. Yes, he had a bad incident when he was in high school defending his parents and his sister. Should he have, hit a woman? No. But all he's done since then is face that adversity and change his life and change the life of the people around him. He has this amazing moment, and ESPN is sitting here replaying the video saying, oh, we're hearing he's a good guy, but if he turns out to, be this criminal, these are just the things we're hearing. So it doesn't reflect the opinions of ESPN. Like, shut the up. And they're like, oh, he's falling because of these domestic issues 4 years ago. Like, wake up. He tore his ACL. When was the last player who tore their ACL in February to go in the first round? I don't know if it's ever happened. So no, he's not falling because he, had an issue in high school. He's falling because he doesn't have any cartilage in his knee. So shame on ESPN for basically slandering this dude who's having like the best moment of his life. Like, he has spent the last 4 years trying to get back to this moment. I feel for him. I hope that he responds to this and just becomes, the Batman to Jarrell Casey's Robin. Like, he could be that good, and Tennessee may have stolen the draft here with Jeffrey Simmons. So we're gonna go A here. You know what, screw it. A+ for the Titans. Go get him, Jeffrey Simmons. I'm ticked off. All right, 20, Denver Broncos, Noah Fant. They trade down, pick up capital, and get a guy that is gonna be a huge mismatch problem. They've got to get a little bit of help for Joe Flacco. He loves his tight ends. I like the receivers they have there, but they did need that kind of mismatch problem that I don't know if you have in Sutton or Hamilton, who are nice players, but Fant can be really special. The only reason this isn't an A+, because I love getting the draft picks, and he fits right in here value-wise. Fant was my 25th player on my board, but they do have some good depth at tight end, so if they're actually able to turn like Jake Butt into like a 4th-round pick, I think you might look to do that because they do have a lot of good players there on that depth chart. So then number 21, the Green Bay Packers, they make a move up here to get Darnell Savage. So they get the first and, in my opinion, probably the best defensive back in this class. Now, I was really, going back to look at Darnell Savage on Monday, and my first thought was Eddie Jackson. Super aggressive, rare ability. We know he's an elite athlete, but it's one thing to be a great athlete like a Byron Jones or Obi Melifonwu. We've seen those guys in the NFL not have elite instincts. It's another thing to be able to see a wide receiver sit down in a curl, see route concepts developing, and make a break on the ball with elite burst. And that is what Darnell Savage has. Now, my notes on him were he's gonna get burnt by pump fakes at times. He's gonna be over aggressive, just like Eddie Jackson. Well, you know what helped make Eddie Jackson so great in Chicago? Having the safety who has been first in the league in big plays allowed for like 3 straight years in Adrian Amos. You know who the Packers just signed? Adrian Amos. So they're literally just replicating what Chicago had in that secondary, and if those corners can just stay healthy, Green Bay's secondary could be one of the best in the league with an elite corner and an elite safety duo. Darnell Savage, I kid you not, has flashes of Earl Thomas, so I really think that's a great pick for Green Bay. I questioned the Rashawn Gary one a little bit, but I loved this pick, and they only gave up 2 fourth-round picks to move up 9 spots to get him, so that was great. Now the Eagles, they move up and get Andre Dillard. Loved this move. This was a good call for me, I think. I said if I'm Philly, my #1 priority is getting a franchise tackle to replace Jason Peters and protect Carson Wentz, who can't seem to stay healthy. This gives them a frankly elite athletic tackle duo. Andre Dillard does need to do some developing, I think. And he's going to be able to do that and learn from 2 of the best, most badass tackles in the league. I wouldn't start him at guard. I wouldn't risk that because he doesn't have the size to really play guard. He's got that elite foot quickness to be an elite pass protector, so I would just sit him. But I love this pick for the Eagles. And then the Texans at 23, they take Titus Howard. Now, Howard was like my 10th tackle. He's like 6th in terms of potential. Freak athlete, but a bit of a project. And if I'm Houston, I am more ready to win right now. Jawan Taylor seemed to be the obvious pick, even Greg Little. But this was their guy, and I will credit them. They took a player at the position that they desperately needed, tackle. He's got the potential, and I see what they like in him, so I'm not going to, shred the pick. But it was a bit of a reach, so a C+. Oakland at 24, they're going to get a D here for taking Josh Jacobs. Now, again, I have Josh Jacobs as the 4th player on my draft board in terms of talent. But this is the same thing we said about Seattle taking Rashad Penny last year to an accentuated degree. Oakland needs safeties, corners, edge rush, linebackers, better younger wide receivers, offensive line for God's sake. Hell, I even think that Drew Lock would have been a better pick to improve that quarterback room. You are not in a position to take a running back, John Gruden. I know that you love this player, and he's going to be a star. Probably going to rush for 1,000 yards and be one of the better running backs in the NFL. I love Josh Jacobs. He's somewhere between Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon, and Ezekiel Elliott. Love his game, but he's a luxury pick in the 1st round, and Oakland is the opposite of a team that is in a spot to make a luxury pick. So a D here for Josh Jacobs. 25, the Baltimore Ravens, Marquise Brown. Excellent wide receiver. Separates better than anyone in this class. Was really excited to see where he ended up. Unfortunately, I think this is the worst landing spot for Marquise Brown in this entire class. Marquise Brown is a 1st-round pick for me. I like him outside the numbers, using that elite speed, route running ability, deception as a route runner on the outside to create separation downfield. Unfortunately, he just landed with the least accurate quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be a weapon in the short game. But the problem here is I actually would have liked a receiver that can block. I think Baltimore was right when that rumor leaked. Like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, I think could have been a better fit here. And those guys have the catch and run ability as well. Also bigger targets for when Lamar Jackson sprays it 3 yards out of a normal catch radius. Those bigger guys can go get it. So I love Marquise Brown, the player. They needed a wide receiver, but I don't like the fit here at all, and I'm really disappointed. I hope that Marquise Brown outlives Lamar Jackson here, or that Lamar Jackson can prove me wrong. But wasn't accurate in college, wasn't accurate as a rookie. I don't see why that would change now. Then we got the Redskins moving up for Montez Sweat. They gave up a future 2nd to come up and get here. Not too bad. It is a decent haul. But I'm going to give them a B+, and people are going to say, but TFG, you said Montez Sweat is a bust. No, I said I would not take Montez Sweat before the 20s. And let me have another I told you so moment here on Montez Sweat. Been saying since February, as people were mocking him in the top 10, that he's not a top 20 player. But I have also never denied that upside, and I've consistently said that he needs to land in a culture that can get him to work. I don't know him, but based on his track record, I do question the off-the-field commitment to the game. Kicked out of Michigan State, went to the Last Chance U Conference, still raw at 23 years old in terms of his skill set, though he's a freak athlete. So the Redskins come up here. They need that #1 pass rusher long term because Ryan Kerrigan's not getting any younger. But he doesn't have to be an impact player right away, and he can learn there because they also have Ryan Anderson probably set to be the starter this year. So I love this pick. If there's a kind of a blue-collar culture that can squeeze some energy out of Montez Sweat's game, it's going to be Washington. And he has potential to be really nasty with that defense that I think is absurdly underrated. If they can find a way to land a good corner in this class, look out. So then 27, Oakland, again, like, underwhelming. I like Jonathan Abram, and I don't want to say anything bad about him because he is just a mean-mugging dude. But I had a second-round grade on him. Super physical, strong safety. I question his kind of speed and quickness and coverage. Gonna struggle in man, and I didn't see a ton of ability as a zone defender either, but he is a good run defender. But here's the problem. First off, you've got some really freaking good offensive linemen staring in you in the face. For some reason, the NFL didn't like Jawan Taylor, but he could have gone Dalton Reisner. Cody Ford. Beef up that offensive line and help Derek Carr, who was just under pressure night and day last year. Or you grab a corner. No corners are off the board yet. Jonathan Abram is redundant with what you have in Carl Joseph. So I get that you had fun with them at the Senior Bowl, John Gruden, but the value is not here. You could have waited till the 4th pick in the 2nd round to get Jonathan Abram, I bet. So really not a fan of this pick either. They got 3 starters, but none of them are value picks at where they took them. And I have a really big problem with that. And it felt like John Gruden told Mike Mayock to leave the building with the rest of the scouts and just did this draft by himself. Then the Chargers, Jerry Tillery at 28. Just going to get a solid C here. We've been mocking them defensive tackle since January. I think every mock they've taken one, so they agreed there that they needed a big body on the inside. I think they were just a little bummed that the guys that they probably wanted, the Clemson guys, were gone. Jeffrey Simmons was gone. So they take Jerry Tillery, who would have been my next guy on the board, so I'll credit them that. Still, though, I had a 2nd to 3rd round grade on Tillery, so based off my own evaluations, a bit of a reach, but they filled a need, so they're going to get a C. And then Seattle, behind Furl, maybe the biggest surprise in the 1st round. So Collier, I had a 3rd to a 5th round grade on. I like the explosiveness. I see what Seattle sees in him, a really nice athlete and a versatile guy. They've been looking for that Michael Bennett role. And I'm not going to really rip Seattle for this because they have a really good eye for talent, especially at this position. And Collier has the physical tools to mold into a type of player that could be a really good guy here. I had written exactly in my notes, 4'3" defensive end, has the size to play inside on passing downs, a bit of a tweener. Don't know exactly what his role is going to be unless he lands in like that Seattle scheme. Well, here he is. I like the position they took. I like the type of player they took. I like that they traded down and got as much extra value before taking their guy as they could. Still a bit of a head scratcher on a guy that they could probably have still gotten in the 2nd. Then we've got pick 30. The Giants moved up for DeAndre Baker. Now, they didn't give up a ton to do it, but you still moved up for him. And I like DeAndre Baker. He was my 4th corner, a really good carbon copy of Janoris Jenkins. And I will credit them for at least admitting that they had a problem at their coverage unit that they should have admitted at 17 or at 6. But they come up, get a corner. I do like that move. I don't agree, though, with who they went with. With Greedy and Byron Murphy still on the board, I really just can't justify taking DeAndre Baker based on my own evaluations. But, hey, it's a lot better than the other 2 picks, and they did need a corner. So I'll give them a C+. Atlanta here moving up for Caleb McGarry. Now, they gave up a lot, but I love what they're doing with this offensive line. Was a huge glaring need. A lot of Falcons fans called me crazy in my mock drafts when I said that they need to address this offensive line in the 1st round. They agreed and double dipped. Now, they did give up a 3rd round pick And with guys like Greg Little and Jawan Taylor still there, they might have been able to just wait. But they liked Kaleb McGarry. He's a pretty much carbon copy as a long, lengthy white dude that they had in Ryan Schrader, longtime tackle there who they cut. So protect your system quarterback, buy him more time. Really solid move, B-. Then we got N'Keal Harry at 32 for the New England Patriots. Awesome fit. Now, I've been a little critical of Harry. I don't know if he's going to be, a great deep threat or separate at an elite level, but a super smart player, fits the physical mold that they're looking for. We know New England's going to run the ball. Really good short to intermediate weapon for Tom Brady, because let's face it, Tom Brady's deep ball numbers, analytically speaking, have fallen off a cliff the last few years. This offense did not need a DK Metcalf or an Andy Isabella. They needed a physical guy who can win contested balls, be a friend for Tom Brady in the short passing game, and I think N'Keal Harry can really do that. And he's also going to run block, which you like. So those are the grades. Excited to hear your feedback. Please, guys, do hit that like button. It's the easiest way to support the channel and share my content. Cheers as always, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Twitch. Peace out.